First lesson of the generative art on blockchain. This is a setup lesson to help you get your entire environment set up. If you're not a beginner to coding, you can kind of skip this lesson, and I will be introducing a lot of the installation as we go through these lessons. But the reason I'm making this starter lesson is we got some feedback from one of our students. 2 stars didn't make me feel too good, but the course so far is definitely not a beginner course. It pretty much dives right in and assumes you've got all the right environments and tools set up and a reasonable knowledge of development. Based on this feedback, I'm upgrading the course. The reason I'm showing you this comment is just to let you know I do read the reviews, so if there's any way you think we could be improving this course, let us know, and I would love to upgrade this course and make it easier to understand for you. So we're going to discuss all of the different tools, and to get started we'll talk about Node.js. Node.js is a JavaScript framework that is good for back-end development, and we're going to be using this. So they've got installers on their website. All of the links that you need to download are going to be inside of this lesson, so you can just check out the resources for this lesson, and I'll have them all posted there. For me, I've got it installed for macOS, and you'll know that it's downloaded if you can run node-v, and then you're going to get printed out a version that you're on. If you don't get a number printed here, then you don't have Node installed, and so you'll need to still go and install, following again that resource over here. This also includes npm with version 6.14 as of the time of writing this, so we can then also check npm-v, and we should see another version of npm. So we'll need both of these, both Node and npm, and if you follow the installation on this website, you will get it. If you still have trouble with any of the installation or you have further questions, I highly recommend using YouTube. YouTube's very good, so if you, for example, are developing on Windows, Windows can be a challenging operating system to develop on in general. So if you are, you can just look up Windows Node.js, and if you search that, I'm sure someone else will tell you how to install Node.js on Windows 10. And it'll walk you through exactly how to do it. YouTube and Google are very good resources as a developer, so while this course is kind of built for beginners, I've got a major bias. I've been coding for the past 10 plus years, so sometimes I move a little fast, which is why these reviews and feedback are good to let me know how we can improve the course. Moving on from Node, we're good on Node. Next up's React. Nothing you really need to do to install React. The GitHub projects that we will have you download will come with React, but there is a nice project called Create React App, and let me just look that up. Create React App is a great resource to spin up a React web server very quick, and I think we use this in one of our later lessons. Yeah, it's this simple command, so you would just run npx create react app my app. If you aren't familiar with this terminal thing that I've opened, if you're on Mac, opening this is as simple as command space, and then you can type terminal. If you're on Windows, there's a lot of different options. I think there's PowerShell and command line or something like that. I didn't like either of them, so when I was on Windows, I just used this application called cmdir. It is an open source console emulator. I believe it's open source. And you can download this and get a nice console emulator that I think works significantly better. And if you don't like either of those and you're on Windows, you can use Git Bash, which is one that people typically download when they're using Git. And you can download this for Linux, Windows, Mac, and it will include everything that you'll be able to need to use Node, npm, and Git. If you're on Linux, this is very simple. If you're using Linux, you probably already know how to access the terminal, and if you don't, I recommend going to, again, YouTube. So once you have that downloaded, you can just run this command inside of your terminal. I don't want to create one right now, but it would be as simple as pasting this. You know what? Just to show you, I will very quickly run this command. Couple of brief command introductions. CD stands for change directory, so if I want to move, right now I'm inside of the folder P5js with React inside of my computer. So if I want to move up a directory into the parent, I would run cd ... Now I'm inside of my experiments folder. And if I run cd ... to go one level higher, I'll go into my projects. So now I'm in my projects folder. And so that's CD, that's change directory. And now if I run ls, it's going to list the files. I think it's list structure is what ls stands for, but I'm not certain. So if I run that, then you can see that I've got experiments in here, which is the folder we just came from. And if I cd into experiments, do I have caps lock on? cd, no, experiments. And now when I'm inside of experiments, we can find the P5 with React library inside of here. P5 with React. So when I'm inside of here, I can paste that command that I've got, npx create React app my app. I'm going to just call it create React app delete React app, just so that I know that I can delete this. And when I send that command, it does everything I need to do to install a web server up and running, and even talks me through what I can do to then get that website running on my local computer once I have it downloaded. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time because I am streaming this lesson while I am showing you the intro, but let's keep moving through the setup, and once that finishes, maybe we stop back and check it out. Let's go back to our resources. Okay, so we've talked about React, we've talked about Node. P5js. This is a library that we will be using to generate a lot of our animations. So I wonder if there's good examples. There's a lot of examples we'll be using. Sketch. We'll be using these examples from the Sketch library on a website called Glitch is where we'll start, and then we'll eventually move over to our own React website later on in the course. So we'll start off doing this stuff right in browser, but P5 allows us to do these kind of animations where we're able to design and modify a lot of what appears on the screen without having to really go deep into code. And it's pretty readable, like blend mode. We're talking in design terms like using fills and backgrounds and no stroke. And then we do get into code. It's a nice healthy balance of using code as well as making art, which we call generative code or generative art. We've talked about P5. Moving on to Git. Learning Git is outside of the scope of this course, but we do have a couple resources for you to leverage. On GitHub, I should be including these URLs to download Git repositories anytime we're using them. I should have the links to these GitHub repositories inside of the lesson description. We've got two main repositories we're going to be using for the Node.js with P5js side, and that's going to be one, blockchain art, which is going to be our React website. React is one of the things we just talked about. And then the other one is NFT with Polygon. We'll talk about Polygon in a little bit. And NFTs is a concept which is kind of the main focus of how we're publishing the art that we're creating. So this one is our smart contracts. Smart contracts are what you publish onto the blockchain. And then this library is our front end. So you can consider the React P5js blockchain art kind of the front end library, and then the back end is all being hosted on the Polygon minting on our smart contract. So this is kind of our back end on the smart contracts. So how you work with Git in these Git repositories is kind of outside the scope. I try to include some little readmes, and I'll continue to update these readmes as people ask more questions. But if you want to learn Git branching, I used this resource when I first was learning Git back. I think I learned this when I was working at a company called Uptake based out of Chicago. And so they give you these nice little lessons, and then they give you these nice little animations that show you exactly what happened. And then you just have to run a command. So in this case, I need to run git commit. Hide goal. And now it says just type git commit. I make a commit, I move on with the lesson, it moves me forward, it's all hunky-dory. Actually, how do I move on? Oh, twice to finish, so I gotta run git commit it. Git commit, and boom, now I've finished the lesson, and then it moves me on. It gives you a nice little gamification of the learning. So I highly recommend using this resource if you don't know anything about Git. If you do know Git, you can keep moving on. We have now covered all of the Web 2 resources. So if you're a web developer, you probably are familiar with this. If you aren't familiar with these concepts, we don't go very deep into them, so you should be able to keep moving through this course without it. But if you do need to learn more, ping me. I could give you some resources. There's a lot of free resources out there for you to learn. And if you don't, I think I've released a couple courses on how to use this stuff for you to be able to learn more on the go. And again, if you don't want to dive too deep and you're more interested just in the art, in the NFTs, you can kind of ignore this. We're now going to move on from talking about the Web 2 technologies that have existed for a long time into Web 3. And we're going to start with this with Metamask. Metamask is a browser-based wallet, and I like their tagline. It's a crypto wallet and gateway to blockchain apps. If you've ever used a blockchain app like Uniswap, Uniswap is a great app for exchanging Ethereum tokens. When you head on to Uniswap, you connect your wallet, and then you have an option. I use Metamask, and it says I need to switch over to Ethereum. So I'll switch my network to Ethereum, connect my NFT wallet. I'll switch from Matic over to Ethereum. So I'm doing a lot of stuff jumping around in the blockchain metaverse right now. And now, boom, it's connected my wallet. I didn't have to sign in with a username and a password. Instead, I just connect my wallet, which is blockchain speak. The concept of a wallet is a little bit outside of this course in about 30 seconds. A wallet is where you store your assets. It has a public key and a private key, and wallets can exist inside of your browser. They can exist through a third-party provider like Coinbase. You can have a hardware wallet like a Ledger wallet. Wallets are where you store your assets. We live in a bankless world, so instead of storing your assets inside of a bank or inside of some centralized provider, I have my public and private key right here, and I can take my assets wherever I want, and I don't need some centralized third party. And yeah, so you'll need to install Metamask. You can do it on the website. On Metamask, it's a quick download. You can install it for any browser. And then while you're going through this course, we'll be using Metamask, and I'll be referencing Metamask when we do things like selling our art on Opensea. Whenever you want to sell something on Opensea, you have to confirm a transaction. So like if I want to take this off, I confirm, and then it asks me to sign the transaction in Metamask. It opens up Metamask. I don't want to remove this from the store, so I'm going to cancel it. But this is how you authorize things on the blockchain. You authorize them using your wallet. It's going to say, hey, you didn't cancel it. Hopefully that gets back over here onto the front end UI. But yeah, that's Metamask. That's Metamask. Download it, use it. It's great. Highly recommend. Next up is Hardhat. Hardhat is, as it says on the website, development environments for professionals. Inside of our code, we're going to be using the Hardhat library. So for example, right here in our script where we're minting our NFTs, we're importing the Hardhat library. We don't dive too deep into you having to understand Hardhat, just kind of understanding that you will use it. We will be talking you through every single command that you need to use with Hardhat. So I highly recommend just kind of learning Hardhat as you go by using it. But if you do want to dive in, you can dive into Hardhat. And then if you don't like Hardhat and you want to use a different deployment and testing kind of framework, you can also use something called Truffle. Truffle is what I started with, and recently I've found more and more companies use Hardhat, so I've kind of conformed and moved over to Hardhat. But Truffle is a sweet tool that includes something called Ganache, which is a local blockchain, but now we're kind of diving down a rabbit hole. Moving on, Truffle, Hardhat, Metamask, these are the Web3 technologies we talked about so far. Next up is Polygon. Polygon is the blockchain we are going to be deploying our NFTs and smart contracts to. Polygon is something called a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. So it is a side chain onto Ethereum. Everything is built on top of Ethereum, so the smart contracts look exactly the same as they would on Ethereum. They have bridges so that you can take everything that you build back to Ethereum. Actually, it is an ERC20 token, so the token for Matic is actually on Ethereum, and you buy the token on Ethereum, and then you move it over to the side chain. So this is a tightly coupled ecosystem with the Ethereum ecosystem, and the reason we picked this blockchain is that the settlement layer is Ethereum. And at the end of the day, we think that Ethereum is the settlement layer. It's the best layer 1 out there. It's the one that's really going to make a big impact. And while there will be multiple winners like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, there's a lot of layer 1s out there. I think Ethereum's the best. So rather than building directly on top of Ethereum, where as a developer we're going to be paying very high gas costs as of this time of this lesson, I think let's look up what the gas costs are. Gas costs Ethereum. So the gas cost right now to use Ethereum as of this moment is about, oh come on, give me the gas cost. Gas and fees. I think it's Ether gas station is where we want to go. Yeah. So here it is, if the range of GUI that you could be paying. So these are, I believe, let's look up 24 GUI to USD. Oh, come on. Google doesn't have a direct converter for GUI. Let's look up 24 GUI to USD. Where is it? Oh, 0.0001 US dollars. That doesn't make sense. Well, it's saying right now it's less than a penny, but maybe GUI's in thousands, so let me add 000. But even at 000, it's still not a ton. The gas price is high, so I don't know how this conversion works, but typically I'm spending around 15 to, on the low end, $15 for any transaction on Ethereum, and on the high end, when it's busy, I could be spending around 50, 75, upwards of $100 just to make a transaction, which a transaction is pretty much an API call. So if we're writing something to the blockchain, it's going to cost us that much gas. So that's why we're using Polygon. With Polygon, I can have 2 Matic tokens in my wallet, and it costs me less than a penny, like 1/100th of a penny. I've been using this, I think we're like 5 hours into the course, maybe 6, and I started off with 2 Matic, and I sent 0.1 to myself, so I think everything that we've played with has been less than 0.01 Matic, which is way more affordable to be as a developer and writing in Matic than it is to be publishing on Ethereum, and be paying anywhere from $20 to $50 to be writing. The cost of entry as a developer is much lower, that's why we're using this. If you want to learn more about Polygon, I've been rambling for a while, highly recommend looking on their website. Also recommend looking up Polygon in podcasts and looking to the Bankless episode of the Polygon podcast. They've got good resources out there to learn more about Polygon and why it should be used. Moving on, next up we've got Pinata. Pinata allows you to host media on IPFS. IPFS is the Interplanetary File System, and it's the go-to for publishing NFTs. It powers the distributed web. It's a nice open source protocol. It's going to help us build a protocol for media storage outside of just Earth and connecting Cosmos, but it gets kind of hard to directly manage IPFS, so we use Pinata to host our the art that we create as well as the metadata that we need to upload. And you get, I think, 1 gigabyte for free, maybe it's 50 gigabytes for free, so it doesn't cost you anything to use it. I've been using this pretty much every day to publish my art for the past couple months, and I am still well within the free tier. I've used 18 megabytes of 1 gigabyte, so I still have plenty of storage before I get anywhere close. I've started to use more storage now that I'm storing GIFs instead of just still PNGs, but still I'm well within the range. So that's Pinata. We'll be storing stuff. They have these things called CIDs. I think that's a content ID. If you want to know more about Pinata, recommend looking it up. I think that's everything. Maybe one more resource, Opensea. If you're not familiar with Opensea, it is like the marketplace for NFTs being published. So if you come onto here, you can look up some very popular NFTs such as CryptoPunks. Come on, show me CryptoPunks. CryptoPunks, a really expensive NFT series where the floor price right now is, what is it, like, it's got to be at least 5 ETH for a floor punk, but it doesn't look like it wants to tell me. These ETH are selling at 50 ETH right now, so that's 50 ETH if you convert that to whatever currency you want. So you can buy CryptoPunks, you can buy Bored Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Yacht Club. And then you can view stuff like my profile. I love that you can have GIFs as your profile photo because you can see it up in the top. So everything that we'll be publishing, we'll end up talking about this in a later lesson of how you can actually sell your art on the blockchain. I've got some art that I created recently up here for like 0.001 wrapped Ethereum, and this is all stored on the Polygon blockchain. So everything that we write on the Polygon blockchain is accessible on Opensea, and it's designated here on Opensea ETH on Polygon. So Ethereum token on the Polygon network makes it so that the gas prices are really affordable. I think that's everything. My goal with writing this lesson was to make it more of a beginner course and to take it a little bit slower before we dive right into lesson 1, where we're going and creating a piece of art and hosting it on the blockchain. If you have any questions and you want this course to be easier and it's still not good enough, leave us a low-star review. The review doesn't matter to me, honestly. I'm doing this out of fun. I'm enjoying making this. Please let me know how we can make this better. Whether you DM me directly on any social media site, let me show how you can reach out to me on social. I'm on Twitter at SweetmanTech. So if you look up SweetmanTech on Twitter, you'll find me. I tweet pretty regularly about the work that I'm doing. And I think my DMs are open. If they're not, I'll change that right now. And this is going to be the last thing, is me changing my DM policy so that people can message me. Limiting color contrast, display language, data usage. How do I do it? It's probably in privacy. My tweets, direct messages, allow message requests from anybody. Okay, so now anybody can DM me. My DMs are open. I'm going to refresh this page and make sure that my DMs are open. So if you need anything, if you need any help or you have any questions on the course, I highly recommend tweeting at me or just messaging me directly on my profile. And I will answer you and help you out in any way I can about the course or generative art in general. I am here to help. Think of me as a resource. I am your teacher. I am your peer. I can be your friend on Twitter. And that is it. Welcome to the metaverse. Hope you enjoy this course. If you have any questions, let me know. This is Sweets signing off. Welcome.